Okay, remember on the menu, as I said, is Mann Ki Baat, a recording on All India Radio that's been done by the Indian Prime Minister and the US President. And typical of Prime Minister Modi, that recording will go up at 8 o'clock, but he's already put up a picture of the two leaders there. You can see, let me try and sort of make that as clear as possible for you. The Indian Prime Minister and the US President recording that. They recorded this yesterday. This will, of course, come out today at 8 p.m. The two leaders there with the flags of the two countries on a round table. Those are the images that you can see. Typical of the Indian Prime Minister and his social media outreach. He's already put it on Instagram and it'll be out on Twitter and Facebook in a moment from now. There you have the Indian Prime Minister, this time in a black band gala. He's with, I think, a little badge of the Indian tricolour possibly there. But typical of Mr. Modi, whose dress sense during this visit has been much commented on right through the last 72 hours. The US President and the Indian Prime Minister, you can see there. Ajay Shukla with us, KC Singh, Sanjay Puri, G. Parthasarthi, Samir Saran. So all bases covered. Interesting that he's using radio at a time when most people thought radio is dead. The Indian Prime Minister is using it. Ajay, are you seeing it completely in the, before you joined us, we were looking at legacy of Obama, one's visit to India when Manmohan Singh was Prime Minister, now with Narendra Modi. The one thing is clear, is just the use of communication, television, radio also. I mean, the Indian Prime Minister in the past never thought of using these kind of, using radio, TV to send out a message.
I think it's extremely significant because we've talked on this program earlier about how the average Indian is so connected with the United States, while at the policy level and at the leadership level, there has been a disconnect for many reasons that we're all familiar with. I think what both leaders are now reaching out to is that connect at the level of the common man, the aspirational Indian.
Basically, he's going beyond you guys. He's going beyond all you strategic studies guys. He's saying enough of the strategic studies guys, enough of the seminars. I'm going directly to the people at a town hall, talking through through radio. I'm just changing the rules of the game.
Because he's understood that the democratic India has to have that common support for the United States relationship. And you agree with that?
Rajdeep did that even during his campaign. He went beyond all of the Delhi's normal crowd and he went directly to the people and he came up with messages that they understood. We didn't.
Are you feeling, Mr. Parthasarthi, as if the Prime Minister and the US President have decided, I'm not talking to the Parthasarthi and KC Singh, they're a small closed door, I'm going straight to the people.
I don't see Twitter, but my grandkids do.
That's right. So that's exactly it. KC, do you see that as a change?
They're going beyond you too.
Very much so. He doesn't need mainstream media at all.
No, but there's a problem with that.
Yes.
Well, this is not FDR's time. Fireside chat started with Roosevelt. That is not 70 years ago or 80 years ago. That's because television was not in play. Radio makes sense if there's greater convergence and people can start hearing it. Now, FM, you don't allow radio, so it's not level playing field.
You don't allow news. Yes.
No, opposition will come in. If you control the sole distributor and you don't allow others to get on it, then there'll be the same kind of problem as Rajiv Gandhi had using Doordarshan.
It's interesting. Are you saying that the Prime Minister is, in a sense, misusing government government monopoly?
Either you open up FM to radio, open FM to radio and let anybody go on the radio. That's not allowed.
Effectively news. Effectively
news
open
is
it up
not
to
on
news
FM. Exactly. So FM, you keep just songs and keep people happy with the opiate. And you use Doordarshan. So this is not level playing field.
No, I find that interesting that you're saying that. But Sanjay, that's the big look at how Manmohan Singh would have. I cannot imagine Manmohan Singh doing what Narendra Modi has done.
Incidentally, sorry to butt in. The great communicator in America, a recent communicator, Ronald Reagan, was originally a radio broadcaster. Radio broadcasters normally have great intonation in their voice.
You see, the thing about Narendra Modi is he's the master of the occasion. He's an event manager supreme.
Correct.
So he's even, you cannot deny, whether it's on radio, whether it's on television, he will master that. Is that a big change that you're seeing? Is that an effective way of communicating?
Well, you need to understand that President Obama has a weekly radio address.
Exactly. All presidents have.
And a lot of it is because the troops outside use radio as a means for communication. And that's been historic. In this country, obviously, it's a little new thing. But there we are used to listening to President Obama every very weak.
No, radio has greater reach here.
But that's an interesting point that Casey is making. That look, once you open up radio, why don't you then open it up to news? Open it up to
let anybody go
why
on radio.
Just the Prime Minister? Let everyone go out on radio. It's a great way of communicating to millions of people.
I think Casey is making a very interesting point because we have opened out television to news, but successive governments have been loath to do it to radio. I think because radio alone reaches the farmer on the fields and rural India.
That's right. But is that the address? I'm often wondering who is that constituency today that the two are addressing?
The youth. I think both.
Even on radio, even through radio, radio presumably is that larger audience.
FM are the car going, are the car drivers, people, the young sitting at home. I think there is a whole proliferation of college communities who listen to these programming. I think they are reaching out to those targeted communities and the aspirational class that Modi defined during his campaign, the 700 million or so, who he wants to communicate foreign policy with. And he does it quite well.
Ajay, you get that sense that this is a new audience that the two leaders want to reach out to? I mean, last time Obama was here, he addressed the joint session of Parliament. I mean, which was equally a significant moment.
I think that in this particular case, I mean, the points we've been discussing are true for electoral politics and so on.
Yes.
But I think here is a particular case where they want Obama's soaring rhetoric, and this time directed straight at India, straight at the Indo-US partnership, straight at building up a ground-level constituency in India for that partnership. They want Obama's rhetoric to be directed directly at that.
How will they handle the language?
It's interesting. We'll have to see. I presume that knowing Narendra Modi, as I said, he will ensure that there are enough translators. There will be translators. It will go in every Indian language.
There is an element of politics, domestic politics, even in this
event.
Because so I think that is also true.
We are 12 days away from a Delhi election, and you've got a Prime Minister. He can reach out to a constituency by doing a radio address.
He is the most innovative head of government we've had in using the media to advantage. Every politician does it. But the important point is, don't forget, earlier days one had only radio, even television was sparse. But he is able to use a multimedia outreach to different audiences.
That's right. And I think that has been his strength during his election campaign, and he's now showing that he can do it even when he's in government. Let me go straight to Rahul Kanwal, who's there at Siriport. Rahul, we are looking at this entire issue of how the Indian Prime Minister is using radio and a multimedia outreach, but there the American President is also targeting in this town hall format where you are a younger India, presumably, and that's the dominant section of the audience, I'm told, at City 4 today.
Rajdeep, you've been discussing in the studio about where the idea for the Mann Ki Baat comes from. I had an opportunity to ask the Prime Minister this question just a couple of weeks ago, and he narrated a very interesting story that I'd like to tell our viewers. So I said, where do you get this idea from? And he says that in 1998, he was in Mandi in Himachal Pradesh, and he was having chai at a dhaba, and suddenly the chaiwala gave him a box of sweets, and he said, "Ye lo, aap mithai khao." The chaiwala, he says, didn't know who this person was, and that time he was a relatively insignificant up-and-coming BJP leader with no great national prominence. So he had the mithai, and he asked this dhaba wala, "Ye mithai kis liye hai?" He said, "Nahi, abhi humne radio mein suna Vajpayee ji ne parmanu vispot kiya hai. There's been a nuclear explosion. We are very happy, and that's why I'm distributing sweets." Narendra Modi told us that that's when it struck him what the power of radio really was. That here in the middle of virtually nowhere, he was out for pravas in a very desolate part of Himachal Pradesh, and there as well. So your studio guests were talking about FMs mostly in the big cities. For Modi, this is not about FM radio. This is not about the big cities. This is an attempt to go to where even television doesn't reach. And he understands that not just will he reach places in Bastar, he'll reach places in Himachal, he'll reach places in Ladakh, he'll reach places in Arunachal where there is no television connection, where there's probably no electricity, but people still have radio. And because of the fact that he's got Modi and Obama with him, it'll also be cut on TV. So he's essentially trying to multiply the reach. That's the idea behind Mann Ki Baat. That's how he says, that's the day he felt that if he ever had an opportunity, he would use radio very, very strongly. He says this is going beyond television, this is going beyond social media. Those are important, but this is an attempt to take it one step further. And the American president also does something similar in the United States, and since he'd already done the joint session of Parliament last time, the American coordinator coordinators were looking for something new to do, and in radio they found a synergy, and therefore this is being translated in multiple languages. It will be available for the first time on private television stations as well. All the news channels will be showing it, and most importantly, it will be going to places where even radio is not visible. That of course will happen at 8 p.m. this evening, but right now we are here at the City Fort Auditorium, and I want to show you what's happening here. This auditorium is jam-packed. It's been spruced up, and I hope they can keep it like this. You've got people coming in from all across the country, from IIT Kharagpur, from Kolkata, from Mumbai. People have come from far and wide to listen to the Prime Minister, to listen to President Obama when he speaks in a short while from now. And they're really concerned about what America wishes to do in the future. Several generations of Indians have grown up, studied in the United States, made their career, made money, made their names over there. Now they're concerned with what they're hearing the American president say, that he wants to lay emphasis on manufacturing in the United States. He wants job creation in the United States. He wants to make it tougher for people to come in. Those are some of the concerns people have, and they want to hear what Obama has to offer to them. Are America's doors still as open as they were a few years ago, or is America becoming more and more closed? Where does the idea of Make in India, which is what the Prime Minister is pushing for, fit into their dream, their aspiration, their vision of wanting to go to a fancy Ivy League university and studying over there and getting the best education? Very charged up, very excited, lots of security, and they're all waiting for the American president to arrive shortly, and he's expected to be here by about 10:40.
How did they choose these students, Rahul? Was there some kind of, you're saying IIT Kharagpur, we are told various colleges in Delhi. Was there some kind of a lottery system? How are students, colleges chosen for this to be part of the audience?
Rajdeep, all those people who've been working with the American Embassy or various American institutions in some way, whether it's the America-India dialogue, students who've got some grant, some trust, some fellowship, those who've been to the United States, alumni who are here currently. So anybody with a US connect in some capacity or other, those are the kind of people who've been brought in, and they've tried to make this pan-India. They've tried to ensure that this is not restricted only to Delhi, which is why people from all over have been brought in, and these are people with some kind of an American connect, and they're here to listen to the American president and see what he has to say about America keeping its doors open. That's the one thing. We speak to these young people, that's what they're saying constantly. Can they go to a US university just as easily? More importantly, after they finish their graduation or post-graduation, will they get a job in the United States? Will they have to come back? Those are some of the concerns they have, and that's what they're expecting that President Obama will speak about when he starts speaking about half an hour from here, Rajdeep.
Okay, we'll come back to you. I can see with the softening of your voice that obviously there is the security presence will be there at the City Fort Auditorium. Rahul, we'll come back to you for much more. But it's interesting. I presume everyone on this table has some US connect, has some relative, nephew, niece, brother, sister, someone in the Indian middle class across cities has built this connect, and the US have recognized this. They've recognized that the power of this new India to build a bridge between the two countries.
Paucity of seats in good colleges in India and high competition. So those who can afford it, you send your kids abroad, because otherwise you're just not able to get a seat in a good college. And the numbers have gone up.
There's that. There's also those who presumably go after IIT, IIMs and also look for jobs abroad. Of course, there's a reverse drain also taking place and people coming back to this country. Right. But clearly the younger India, the student community, and you'll know this well, have been used over the years to build bridges between the two communities, between the two countries.
Well, not just students. Look at the Indian-American community there. Everybody has one leg here, one leg there. They have business operations here, the constant back and forth, back and forth. We live not a bi-coastal, bi-ocean life in many ways. So there is a lot of connect that happens continuously.
And there's also a very important factor of America's soft power over
That's
here.
right.
There are university seats in Australia, in England, and many of them are very good institutions. But that power, that soft power and that hold that the American sort of entire soft power MACMA exercises over the Indian imagination, the young people's imagination.
But it works both ways.
And interestingly, America recognizes that about India, about India's soft power in this region.
But is it new? Because, my son, for example, went to a school where 60 out of a class of 120 are apparently abroad, most of them in American universities. So is this recognition that the two, because this brain drain and Indian students going there has been taking place over the last 30, 35 years. From the 80s in particular,
70s,
it picked up,
80s, yes.
70s, 80s, it picked up momentum. But have the two countries recognized it only today? That they have to do town hall, they have to address students.
But Rajiv, this is a big economic generator for US too, because a lot of the Indian students who come there pay full freight, and the American students are on scholarships.
No, I take it, but I want to know, have we woken up to this reality?
So two things have happened. So one of the numbers. So the Indian ambassador in one of her speeches mentioned that $4 billion as full tuition fees is paid by...
We are number 2 after the Chinese.
After the Chinese. $4 billion of tuition fees.
That's right.
Another 3 to 4 billion of living expenses.
Yes.
Within that. So you have a $8 billion, which is more than your education budget in your central budget here in India. $8 billion are spent by Indian students in America, which is slightly larger than what your budget has as allocation for the education.
I know Mr. Parthasarathi has his daughter
I have
Coast, and several other relatives all over America.
Yes,
So he keeps going every summer.
Two daughters.
Yes.
One did her postgraduate in business management, came back.
Right.
Her husband works with you.
Yes.
The second daughter did mathematical modeling of designing semiconductors.
Where?
In Georgia Institute of Technology, postgraduate studies, was doing her PhD.
Right.
When she was grabbed by Texas Instruments.
So you've got one foot
And I've got a
in America.
Gujarati son-in-law there.
So you're very much part of what Mr. Obama would like to see as his outreach, building these connections. Yes, Ajay.
Just, the model, this business model and intellectual model that the United States has, where foreign students come, subsidize the education of local students. Then the United States gets to choose the cream of those, many of whom settle and become, contributing members of the US technical and academic life.
Yes.
And in the case of India now, there's the added advantage that they see of those who come back over here and build up India as now.
But I'm just wondering, and Casey, before I take a
Rajiv, one little point. Yes. My daughter stayed on there for one simple reason, that the semiconductor industry had not come up in India. That sort of high technology, the production was there.
I take your point, but Casey, just when do you think was the turning point? Because let's be honest, Indian doctors had started from the 60s, 70s, going to America.
Depends on the visa
Where do you think was that turning point, which has now resulted in a critical mass almost being created, which is redefining this relationship?
This is post-91 India. When the economy expanded, people could afford the education there. Also, the US visa system, I think they became a little more liberal. I remember in the 80s, 90s, maximum safarish you'll get in the ministry is my visa has been denied.
In fact, a young student has just told me that the US president has been now actively promoting this kind of reform, which gives Indian graduates an opportunity to work in America.
So it used to be a very big thing. To get a student visa was a very tough and very difficult thing.
Yes. Post the Cold War, it was fascinating to see how quickly the countries came together. Because of that, people to people.
May I say another thing, which I don't want to sound chauvinistic as an Indian.
Yes.
The Americans find that Indian immigrants not only are high class in education, but are very law-abiding. You don't have Indian community gangs.
And they don't live in ghettos.
The problem with the Chinese at the moment
you don't see in India.
Yeah, let me take a break. It's fascinating. As you can see, those pictures are coming of the US president is expected to arrive in City Fort anytime. But this is a fascinating discussion because the sense is as this demographic shift takes place, as the Indian middle class becomes more aspirational, as it is able to be economically stronger, it creates that critical mass which will virtually force the two leaderships, the two nations to come closer together. And the fact that the US president is having this kind of a town hall perhaps reflects the kind of change that is taking place in the Indo-US equation. Namaste Obama, a special coverage of the US president's visit to this country, which is now in its last few hours, but not before the US president will make that address, a town hall address at City Fort in a few moments from now. We'll be shifting to City Fort, but as we look at the various highlights of the visit, one of those is the fashion statements that are being made. We're being told that the US First Lady has kept a very low profile this time. Michelle Obama has just made 4 appearances in 2 days. And while we are looking at her style mantra, the fact is that she seems to be upstaged or in some ways has lost out to our Prime Minister, who's proving to be a serial dresser. Take a look.
But a second appearance on the first day of her Indian visit failed to impress. The floral flouncy dress she wore to the president's banquet seemed unflattering and drew major flack. The Prime Minister seems to be scoring over the First Lady in the style department, making more dress changes in a day than her, and even wearing a pinstripe suit, not with a designer monogram, but his own name. A style earlier worn by former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak. With his sharp taste in clothes and his love for colours, Narendra Modi is packing quite a punch when it comes to fashion, prompting even the President of the United States to take note.
Our newspapers back home wrote, "Move aside, Michelle Obama, the world has a new fashion icon." Tonight I was thinking about wearing a Modi kurta myself.
Maybe the First Lady too could try some Indian wear. A special handloom sari from Narendra Modi's constituency Banaras will be presented to her. That would surely win India over. Bureau Report, Headlines Today.
Welcome back. Looking at their two dresses, certainly I generally am accused of dressing down, but the Indian Prime Minister can't be accused of that. Are you okay? Is everybody on this table okay with the fact that he had this pinstripe with his name embedded in it? I know Casey has a problem, right?
I'm more traditional in my approach.
You're more traditional, even though you're resplendent in your
Colours is all right, but
colours is okay.
But fabric and cut.
No, are you worried about the fact that he had put his own name there? Is that what is troubling you? You were showing me that it resembles what Hosni Mubarak used to do in Egypt.
No, it's not troubling me. It's troubling social media.
It's troubling social media. Social media is always looking at something to angst about. But look, he's trying to dress up. I mean, he's got jade blue, the tailors in Ahmedabad. They've traditionally, his Modi kurtas are very nice. I just wonder whether they've got the suits right this time.
Well, jade blue is then indulging in couture sycophancy.
I think couture sycophancy, that's a nice word that Samir is using.
Look at the completely underdressed Jawaharlal Nehru.
Yes.
It was a white jacket which has now been recast.
No, but you see, he had his rose.
So that's all right.
He had the rose.
It's an absolutely simple white jacket with a button open.
The world has changed. Couture sycophancy.
The fact of the matter is, we all evolve. Yes. My father used to feel I was too nattily dressed.
Yes.
And my grandchildren feel I am too old-fashioned.
So you remember in the 80s, when safari suits came for the first time. A lot of Indian politicians wanted to wear safari suits, and they looked a little odd at the time. Now you've evolved.
President Obama, I'm told, has only 3 colored suits. He has blues, greys, and one other, because he doesn't want to spend time on it in the morning.
Yes.
There was a famous Hollywood film director, he's now in exile in Europe. He only had blue blazers and khaki trousers. He said that I do not want to spend time choosing clothes in the morning. So the choice is made out.
Modi, and I will say this, I remember him even in the 90s was very careful about the way he dressed up. He's always been conscious of the way he looks. I mean, what's wrong with that?
I think, people in America keep calling him the rock star after the Madison Square Garden, so maybe...
Gross bad taste. Okay, different people have different tastes.
I think in the age of
the word would be kitschy.
Narcissism runs deep, right? Yes. So a little bit of name on your pinstripe doesn't really matter. But my point here is that why should a Prime Minister need to respond to every occasion through the couture communication?
I think somewhere Mr. Modi's tailors perhaps need to relook at how they want to project the Prime Minister. But before I take a break, you want to give a word on Michelle Obama. I mean, the fact is there's been this feeling, why haven't we seen more of Michelle Obama? Is that really necessary?
No,
does this date back to the 60s and Jackie Onassis? We have this obsession to see how does the president's wife
She's a very lively and accomplished lady.
Yes.
But if I was suddenly to find I'm going to Saudi Arabia rather than Agra, it could have an impact on us.
Okay, let me take a break, because I'm told that we expect the US President any moment to arrive at the City Fort Auditorium, where he will be delivering the US President delivering that speech. Remember, we're looking forward to this, because this could really set the agenda for the future, in a sense, for India-US ties. A lot of the audience, young Indians, who really will have to shape the future of the relationship between the two countries.